Hello and welcome to the third video in this Python course series. This video is going to be on conditionals. Make sure that you have watched the previous videos because we will be building upon that. So conditionals are basically decision control statements. In ordinary life, we many times need to actually take decisions based on some condition. For example, if someone's age is above 60, they are classified as a senior citizen, right? So basically we need this structure called if. We are going to just go ahead and see how it is used in Python. Straight away, let's just have an integer. We'll just call it v, and v could be set as, let's say, some 3. All right, and all we are saying is that, hey, if v is less than 10, we will say that it's a small number. Otherwise, we are going to say that it's a large number. Let's just say that this was the requirement. So the syntax for doing it is this. We have to say if. If is a keyword in Python. That is why you would see that there is a different color in this IDE. All right, so the color changes specific to this IDE PyCharm, but usually any editor that you use will have a mechanism of explaining to you that hey, that if is actually a reserved keyword in Python. It has an inbuilt meaning. All right, so we just want to say if v less than 10. It's as simple as that. You would remember relational operators. So we just compare v and 10, and now we want to say that this is a small number, right? So the syntax is this. After the if, you have to put a colon, and now if you're using an IDE, if you press enter, usually you will be one tab space indented already. If it is not happening for you, let's say if your cursor is blinking somewhere over here, then make sure that you press tab and you come one tab space inside. This is called as indentation, and it is actually a must in Python, because this is how Python identifies the body of a statement. For example, things that should happen only if this condition is true. Okay, so again, this tab space is a must, or it's not for beautification, it is actually mandatory. Okay, so if v is less than 10, all you have to print is this is a small number, right? And well, what if that is not the case? If it is not the case, we can have an else. Now an else is actually optional. Else doesn't need, else is not mandatory after an if, but if is always mandatory before an else, which means if can exist without the else, but else cannot exist without the if, because else is a fallback condition. All right, it is executed when nothing else works. So we say else, you just print out that not a small number. Again, not the most exciting application, but it is for proof of concept that by changing the value of v over here, we can selectively execute either line number 4 or line number 6. Let's just run this file, and we should hopefully get the print of this is a small number. Yeah, so we do get this is a small number. And if, let's say, I change this to more than 10 or more than or equal to, even if I set this equal to 10, you should remember now that v is less than 10, this condition will be actually false, okay, because 10 is not less than 10. So you will go in the else, and you would get the output of not a small number. Not to mention, if you mention anything greater than 10, you're obviously going to get not a small number. All right, I think this makes sense. Now let's just say we wanted to have some more classes actually. So we are saying that, okay, if v is less than 10, we are going to call it a small number. If it is between, let's say, 10 and 20, we are going to say it's a medium number. Otherwise, we are going to say it's a large number. All right, so I'll just copy this code and paste it over here. I'm doing that because I want to actually comment this one out and just write this part afresh. So the thing is, if v is less than 10, then the print of this is a small number will be done. Then we want to say else if v is less than 20. All right, now try to understand here, guys, that we do not need to specify that v is greater than equal to 10 and less than 20, because see, if v was not greater than 10, then automatically this line would have executed. All right, The thing with if, elif and else, you would actually think about it logically that, for example, when we were coding this part out, either the if or the else will be executed. Exactly one of them will be done, alright? It cannot be zero, it cannot be both. Exactly one. That idea can be extended to include, some elifs as well. Elif is short for else ifs, alright? So we say else if v is less than 20, we would just like to print out that, this is a medium number. Otherwise, let's say we are just going to print out this is a large number. Okay, right. So now since v is 102, we should be getting the print of this is a large number, right? If we set it less than 10, for example, let's say if we set that to 9, we should be getting this is a small number. And if we set it somewhere, between 10 and 19, inclusive, all right? I mean, 10 is inclusive and 19 is also inclusive. Let's just set that equal to 19. So this condition is true. Therefore, we will get the output of this is a medium number. Alright guys, you can try it out for other things as well. You can even set it, as a float. Now v is still less than 10, so you're going to get this is a medium number. Alright. So be sure guys that you have understood this. If, elif and else, this elif is actually quite commonly used. Again, only exactly one of the branches will be executed. Okay, that's the advantage of using elifs. Now the other types of conditional is, actually the conditional part is pretty much done here, but we would like to use other operators inside of conditionals. For example, we would like to use logical operators. Okay, so for those of you, who are familiar with divisibility tests, you would already know if you want to check, if a number is divisible by 6, it's sufficient to check if the number is divisible by 2 and if the number is divisible by 3, right? So if the number is divisible by 2, that means it's an even number, and if it is divisible by 3, then for sure it means that this number is divisible by 6. Alright, so we are going to actually check for divisibility by 6 by checking for both divisibility by 2 and divisibility by 3. Now this has to be an AND condition. It has to be a logical AND, because you want both the conditions to be true simultaneously, right? It's not enough if it is true, if it is divisible by any one of them. No, it has to be divisible by both of them. All right, so fine, let's just this time let's ask the user for a number. All right, so we'll say num is equal to, you would remember from the first lecture that you have to use this input function and convert it to an integer, and we'll just say enter your number. All right, and we can probably give a nice \n, which is the escape character for a new line. So basically the cursor will blink in a new line on this console window over here. Fine, so we say okay, you get the num. After this, what we do is we want to check for the divisibility, right? So we say if num, and how do we check divisibility by 2? How do we check divisibility for that matter by any number? You take the number which you are trying to check, for example, let's say the number is 17 and you're interested in seeing if this is divisible by 2. So what you do is you divide 17 by 2, but you only consider the remainder. All right, the quotient is not important. If the remainder is 0, then it means that what you have is a factor of the given number, right? Or basically the number is a factor of 2. So in this case, if we are saying if num mod 2 is double equal to 0, remember how to check for the relational operators, how to check for equality of two objects. All right, you use the double equal to, not single equal to. Okay, so if num mod 2 is equal to 0 and num mod 3, this mod function you would remember from the arithmetic operations. This is basically the modulus function that calculates the remainder for you. So we are saying if num mod 2 is equal to 0, that this part means therefore that the number is divisible by 2, and this means that the number is divisible by 3. The AND means that both of these need to be true simultaneously. Okay, so if that is the case, we can very safely say that number is divisible by 6. And for all the other cases, we could just say we can just print out not divisible by 6. All right. Again, there can be multiple uses of this. Currently, we are just seeing a simple application because I want to make sure that you are understanding how to logically combine Boolean statements and get meaningful results out of it. Okay. So let's just go ahead and run this fellow. Yeah, it asks me to enter my num. For example, first I'll enter a number, a multiple of 6. So let's say I just enter 216, which is the cube of 6. All right, we get the number is divisible by 6. All right, now let's enter something that is not at all divisible by 2 or divisible by 3. So probably something like 11, which is a prime number. We get not divisible by 6, right? You can even check for the cases where, for example, this number is divisible only by 2, not by 3. We will get not divisible by 6. And similarly, for example, this fellow is also not divisible by 6, which is just a factor of 3 and not a factor of 2. So our AND condition is working perfectly over here. We need both the conditions on either side of AND to be true. All right. So this is basically the compound, this is compound conditional. And the last thing that I would like to show in this video is the nested conditional. All right. What nested conditional does is, we're going to use the same thing over here. So instead of actually checking both the divisibilities in one line using an AND, we are actually going to, check them step by step. And, one condition will be inside of the other. Okay. So for example, we can say if if a number is divisible, our problem statement remains still the same. We are taking a number and finding if it is divisible by 6. All right. So first we check for divisibility by 2. All right. And well, if it is not divisible by 2, so this keyword is important, pass. If you're not sure what to do right now, you just want a dummy implementation, then use this keyword pass. All right. Empty lines will not work. You will have to actually write something. If you want, you could just put a comment over there. Even that would work, but I think pass is just it's just the probably more accepted way and more correct way of doing it. All right. So pass is just a placeholder, wherein you're not sure what to do now. I'll come and actually change that pass in a moment, but I just want to go ahead and fix the else first. So look, if num is not divisible by, if num is divisible by 2, we would go inside over there, line number 24. Otherwise, it clearly means, right, that this number is not divisible by 2. So let's just print out, num not divisible by 2. Okay. All right. So now we are in this space over here in line number 24. You can see where the number is divisible by 2. So now we need to go ahead and check if num is divisible by 3. So again, what is important over here is indentation. You have to be very careful about this. This if has to start, one tab space inside of the previous if. All right. Because this if is inside the body of this if. Okay. Scopes or body is denoted by tabs in Python. All right. In some other languages like Java, it is denoted by curly braces. In Python, it is tabs. All right. Spaces, white spaces. So now we want to check if num mod 3 is equal to 0. This basically means that the number is divisible by 3 as well. So we can print out number divisible by 6, because you see, again, notice this tab space over here, guys. Since this print statement is the body of this inside if, so it needs to be, indented one tab space. Indentation is just a fancy word for saying, okay, go, inside, basically one tab step. So basically you can see that this print statement is inside the body of this if. All right, so if both of them are true simultaneously, then you can say that the number is divisible by 6. Else, in this case, you should print out, and I would leave it to you to actually understand how we got over here, that num not divisible. Num or number is the same thing, all right. But still, let's just go ahead and change it to the exact variable in which we receive it. We can just say that num not divisible by 3. Okay. I'll leave it to you to understand how this comes. If you're unsure, then well, try to look up some other resources. If you're still unsure, just just reach out to me or to anyone else, and basically you should be clear with this. But again, this is an exercise for you, at a personal level. So go ahead and try to understand this. Alright, let's just go and run this fellow now. Enter your number. Again, we'll start this time probably with the fourth power of 6, which is 1296. Alright, so since it is the perfect power of 6, obviously it is divisible by 6, therefore. So therefore the number is divisible by 6. Now I want to put a number that is not divisible by either one of them. Alright, something like 25. So we would get num not divisible by 2, which makes sense because first this if condition is checked. Now because the first if condition itself fails, we will come to the else. Alright. So look, this is not wrong, right? 25 is not divisible by 2, so it cannot be divisible by 6. It actually makes perfect sense. You can ask, why does the 2 come first and the 3 come next? Can we actually switch this? Well, obviously, yeah, you can switch this. That would also be, logically correct. But then obviously you will need to change these statements as well. These two fellows you will have to modify accordingly. Alright. I'll leave that to you as an exercise. Now let's just check a number which is divisible by 2 but not by 3. So basically we should be getting this output. An example of that number is, let's say, 22. We get num not divisible by 3. So which basically means that it is also not divisible by 6. Alright. So in this fashion we can actually provide more granular details of where in which part of the code is in which part of the code are you actually coming in and sitting over there. So basically which part of the code is being run. Alright, so I hope guys that you have understood this, whatever was taught over here. Make sure that if you need to, then watch this video over again, because conditionals is something that is not at all skippable. All the logic that we are going to do will require conditionals, which is very, very important, and what we will be covering in the next video, which will be looping. Alright, so that's it for this video, and I'll see you next.